On the eve of fall camp in Baton Rouge. How about that? Welcome to the Voice of College Football on a Wednesday night. We are happy to join everyone out there getting ready for college football. It is August, and we've got college football in August. That brings a little comfort to the soul, doesn't it? We know what in this month we will be watching college football. LSU just a few days later, of course, on a Sunday night. We got Lon Phillips Sullivan from LSU Odyssey. We've got Carter from the Power Hour on YouTube as well. Boys, how we doing tonight?
Doing great. Carter's the man. What's up, Carter?
Life is great. Good to be here with Lon. It was a big week for Lon, Mr. Mark.
Yes, so if Lon is, I know that this is typically the term for the mother glowing, but if the dad can glow too, right? Isn't that part of it?
Damn straight.
In the last few days.
It's been crazy. Actually, no, it hasn't really been crazy. It's gone so well that all those horror stories you hear, and we're not gonna have any of those real stories to tell. It's just gonna be like, oh, it was a great nursing staff. It's gonna sound very boring. We had a sandwich at 5 p.m. This happened. I mean, she was in pain at one point, and then chose to have epidural. Like, it's all very pedestrian, and it was all very quick. Chelsea was amazing. She's doing well right now, feeling good, as good as can be. The baby's doing good as well. Everything's moving in the right direction, Mark.
Yes, introduce us here, Lon. Who are we looking at here?
That is Sage, James, Charles, Phillips, and that's him.
Phenomenal. Congratulations once again, proud Papa Lon.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Amazing.
And thank you, Carter, for saying that as well earlier. Thank you, my man.
The miracle of life. Yes.
Good, man. And what's funny is my fiance, she's having twins tomorrow. So we're pretty that was a total joke. I saw the look on Mark's face, like, oh wow. Okay.
Whoa.
I was seriously like, Carter, whoa. Where's this secret been? Wow.
Yeah, no, it's great. A future LSU Tiger fan. And Mark, we move closer to the season. It's that good time of year, man.
Carter, you've got a few minutes with us, so let's tee you up first. Tomorrow's the day. Everybody hits the field. Of course, they're just going to be running around for a few days, but popping pads here before we know it. Get us ramped up on what is going to be important for the next 4 weeks for this LSU football team.
So, Mark, I know you cover all the teams, right? And you hear this all the time, right? Well, our school's strength coach is the best strength coach in all of college football. Now, the truth is, Lana, I mean, Mark, I know you hear it all the time because you do cover every last 100 gazillion team. And that is the number one thing. Our strength coach is the best in the business. So, as far as the offseason is concerned, obviously there's a lot of stories surrounding LSU recruiting. Obviously, they get a big story with Ricky Collins, a quarterback that decommits from Purdue. He probably will be committing with LSU within the next week or so. What's really interesting, though, was this was LSU's first offseason not under Tommy Moffitt's leadership in a long time. So Moffitt used to be at Tennessee, and he's been at LSU through, and this is what's really fascinating about him, he's been at LSU through 3 different coaches. So he was there with Saban, he was there throughout Les, and he was there throughout Orgeron. And obviously it was time for a change, and Moffitt was really good, and they bring in Jacob Flint. Now, what's really interesting about that is normally when a new head coach goes somewhere and they want their strength coach to go with them, the strength coach normally goes with them. But Bayless, the strength coach at Notre Dame, decided to stay. So Jacob Flint from Notre Dame came to come run one of the best programs in the country, obviously LSU's strength and conditioning program. And, Lon's got a ton of sources. He's probably hearing the same thing. It is very interesting, Mark, how a lot of players' bodies have changed. It does seem like the nutrition and all of that has changed behind the scenes at LSU. Now, here's what's cool, Mark, is everybody's got this catapult technology and all these different things. But it is very interesting to see how LSU's conditioning is going to be with someone else at the helm. And Mark, as you know, strength and conditioning coaches spend more time with, players than anyone else. So tomorrow's going to be the first day that the strength coach is no longer the focal point, and now the actual coaches are really going to actually start coaching because they actually get back on the field.
That's a great point.
It should be fun, though. Lon, I know you've been talking about, the behind the scenes and stuff. How do you feel about the behind the scenes movement for LSU right now?
You mean, are you talking about just fall camp, or are you talking about
fall camp? Fall camp. How do you feel
for fall camp? I mean, it's very interesting because we bring in 7 transfer defensive backs.
Yeah,
7. And you see some stability with like maybe Mekhi Garner, Joe Fuchsia, Greg Brooks Jr. looked awesome at times in spring, but like, are any of these guys really proven, at LSU? And you said Tommy Moffitt, been there since I think it was January 2000 when he was appointed coach, like a few months into the Saban reign, and then you got Corey Raymond, who was with LSU for what, like 13, 14 years or something. This is going to be LSU's first season without Corey Raymond. Can DBU reestablish themselves brick by brick in a way via the transfer portal? A lot of guys, I think almost purely outside of Sevian Banks, all Louisiana guys. I think just looking at that list, I think Sevian Banks, Orlando, outside of him, all Louisiana guys, either coming home or, being picked off from, smaller schools with McNeese, stuff like that. This was smart recruiting, or will it blow up in LSU's face for a season while they kind of figure this out? I'm not too sure, because I think this DBU, people are selling it short. DBU 2022. Jay Ward was fantastic last year, led LSU win interceptions over the last 2 seasons. Sage Ryan, will he be able to really make an impact here at nickel, or is he going to be moved back to safety, play at corner? That's the thing. DBU, we got torched for big plays, big play after big play, explosive play after explosive play in the passing game, which was shocking with Corey Raymond on staff the last few years. And you can even count, there's some games in 2019 where, he got torched for some yards there. Texas comes to mind as one of those games. But DBU is one thing I'm looking at. Offensive line, where do these puzzle pieces fall with Brad Davis? Is Brad Davis going to really use his cross training obsessions and Marlon Martinez, a guard, is he going to be the starting center over someone like Charles Turner, who took all the first team reps through spring? That's huge deal. That's a huge deal. We heard Brad Davis reference Marlon Martinez being the center twice. Once in spring, kind of in some interview with Jacques Doucet, kind of an obscure thought, but one I held on to because it was like, he just said Marlon Martinez first, or it was like, what? He really made a point of emphasis with Marlon Martinez. And he did it again during an interview with Jordy Collada. And it was like, whoa, okay, he's really making a point. This guy who's been injured, a guy who you think is going to factor big in the guard battle, against maybe Anthony Bradford, Cardell Thomas, Tremont Shorts coming in the transfer portal. But you could also use Anthony Bradford at left tackle. You could also, there's a lot of different combinations with these guys. Garrett Dellinger, I think, I wouldn't doubt that he could almost play every position on the offensive line if LSU needed him to. I think almost the challenge itself would get him going. The offensive line, defensive backfield, secondary, so imperative, because it doesn't matter how genius your offensive coordinator is. It doesn't matter how great skill position players you have, or even how good your quarterback is. If you have a bad offensive line in the trenches, weak in the trenches, getting pushed around, and then in the secondary, if you cannot cover receivers in the SEC, you're not going to live.
Yeah.
Herder, again, since we only have you for a few, there's 2 things I'd like to hit you up on. And of course, I want you to talk about anything that's on your mind, on your heart, that you want to deliver here with us on the eve of LSU camp. So Folks, we're delivering camp previews live for you. Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Penn State, LSU here tonight. One is, this is kind of out of left field, but you guys are used to looking at this roster for as long as you've been covering and been fans of the team and been like, okay, this is a top 3 to 4 roster in the country. We need to get it done. You know, we have championship aspirations. Not so much this year. Is there, and of course you want to win championships, but is there a little juice to having going into a season that's more like, you know, let's roll the dice, let it ride, let it fly, see what these kids have. Nobody expects anything. We may lose 4 or 5, but let's just see. This may there's actually a little less pressure there, and just let's see how it falls.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point. So, you know, for me, this roster should have enough championship talent. What's very interesting is LSU brought in a 2020 recruiting class, and as both of you know, and all the listeners here, I see Oregon fans, I see USC fans, I see fans everywhere watching your channel right here, Mark. And everybody knows that not all your top elite top 50 recruits that you get are going to hit. Now, what's very interesting is LSU's 2020 class, all those players, for the most part, that were in the top 100 hit outside of 1 or 2 of them. So that means, you know, they're going into their junior season. The issue is some of those players went to other teams. And, you know, this should be a championship level roster. And honestly, they do have enough raw talent to make some kind of a 10-game push if the ball were to bounce every way imaginable in your favor this year. The difference, so Mark, is part of the reason why you see so many Vegas win totals just in the 7.5s is they don't know who the quarterback's going to be right now.
Exactly.
For me, it comes down to that. And, you know, we could talk about all these different, you know, positions, but this is one of those rare circumstances where the general question that everybody is asking is the same question that Lon's asking, that I'm asking, that anyone that follows LSU every day is asking: who will be the quarterback? And I think the most interesting thing is, like, if, you know, I don't remember Stetson Bennett's backup's name, the guy that lit it up in the spring game. I don't remember his name at all.
Was that Carson Beck?
Yeah, Beck. Okay. So, you know, if you were to put Stetson Bennett and Beck next to each other and watch both of them play, they actually are somewhat similar quarterbacks. The very fascinating thing about all 3 of LSU quarterbacks that are going for this number 1 spot is all 3 of them play completely different styles of quarterbacking. They are not really alike in any shape, form, or fashion. And that could be difficult for a play caller, because if you have 3 separate quarterbacks, you do have to call a game differently. So that's obviously going to be, you know, a big thing going into this, you know, this fall, is that how quickly will Brian Kelly name a quarterback, and we'll see what happens there.
So Carter, has Brian Kelly given us good indication as to what he's going to value the most?
Yeah, he said it in the spring game, and Lon, I heard you tweet, or saw you tweet this out as well. He did specifically mention mobility. He did. And if that is a deal breaker for you, then obviously Jaden Daniels is going to be your guy. He is the most experienced. Roger Dodgers bringing him up in the chat. I've seen Roger in my chat. I've seen Mark J. Mark J is one of the best college football YouTube commenters out there. Shout out to you, my friend. Jaden's the most experienced quarterback in this room. He's not the most experienced quarterback in terms of being in LSU. But Jaden is just the most experienced and the most mobile quarterback. And if, you know, you want to see a bunch of RPO kind of stuff and you want your quarterback to be able to run, obviously you can run RPO offenses without a running quarterback. But, you know, if you factor in mobility, if that is what Brian Kelly wants the most out of the quarterback, if what Brian Kelly wants the most is experience, then Jaden Daniels is going to be your guy. If you want the most pristine passer or a better thrower of the football, Miles or Garrett's going to be your guy. But obviously what's very interesting, and this is going to be a household name for everybody watching this or listening to this nationwide is Jordan Palmer has worked with Jaden Daniels. And Jordan Palmer, if you were to ask, people way smarter than any of us, a lot of quarterback evaluators view him as the best. So, that lets you know Jaden has been very serious about getting better in the intermediate passing game. And if he does that, he is going to be the guy.
Absolutely. Carter, take a bow, my friend, because that was just absolutely sexy LSU analysis right there, because that's what it's about. Man, I believe that, because you gotta feel Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly, Mike Denbrock. They're smart guys. They're not sitting there going, all right, who's got all 4 playbooks? We got about 1,000 sheets of paper here in this room with all these playbooks. They're not. They're about simplifying things. They're about cutting it down, making it quick, getting the ball at the playmakers. If that's what they, we've heard staff say that before, obviously, and not deliver that at LSU. I believe this staff is actually more serious about that, and actually have a track record to prove that. If they're very serious about that, well, then look at 4 very different quarterbacks.
Right.
So the first 2 weeks of this fall camp are not only critical. Miles Brennan's career will be decided, really, in the LSU wise and NFL. Will he have a shot being a big time NFL quarterback with that SEC pedigree, being a starter at LSU? Will that dream die, quickly in the first 2 weeks of fall camp? I don't think they're looking for a quarterback like Miles Brennan. I don't think he has the mobility back there. I actually don't think he even has the arm. I think people talk about his great arm, but when I watch the tape, even going clear all the way to LSU's 2022 spring game and then games where he put up over 400 yards, his passing lacks timing, rhythm, and just pure power, velocity. There's just an factor that's missing. Most of all, which concerns me, not only is he a near statue in the backfield when facing pressure, leaving himself stranded with defenders, breathing down his neck, he finished an abysmal, and I just remember this stat because it's clear as day, 9 out of 39 on third down in just 3 starts in 2020 versus, this wasn't Alabama. This wasn't Texas A&M or at the top of their game defensively. This isn't Florida with a top 5 defense or something. This was Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Missouri going 9 of 39 on third down. And I believe it was 0 of 11, 0 of 12, something like that against Missouri. And that's just unacceptable. He's got to improve on the critical downs. And I really didn't see an improvement in his passing game, Carter. I didn't see he's really nailing these throws. He made some big, the media loves taking the footage of these, deep throws to Dre Jenkins. But if you really watch those throws, those plays, Dre Jenkins is having to hesitate, having to come back on the route. True. It reminds me a bit of Danny Etling, man. And DJ Chark having to come back, having to go flying into double coverage, like literally having to play corner, basically. You might as well call DJ Chark a receiver / cornerback for his LSU career. The passes that he should not have caught, but did somehow.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing a lot of that when I see Miles Brennan out there. Garrett Nussmeier, complete package, man. He's playing searing football out there. I would love to see him continue, pick up where he's going, pick up where he left off in spring game. He was in control of the football team. Don't you agree? I feel like he was controlling the sidelines.
Yeah. And, this is also very interesting, Mark, is that obviously Jaden is going to be with his best wide receiver since Brandon Ayuk. And Mark, you got a lot of Pac-12 viewers. So, a lot of people remember Brandon Ayuk and Frank Darby, how good of a duo that was, especially at a non-USC, non-Oregon, type of school, to have 2 really good receivers like that. And Jaden, as a true freshman, heavily relied on those guys, obviously. And those guys beat a lot of man coverage and made a lot of plays for him. And obviously, you had Ricky Pearsall, who's now at Florida. Was a really good receiver. But I do agree with Gary that there were some rough spots for Jaden as far as, consistency and mechanics. They found a way to win that USC game, even though Jaden didn't play his best. But there's also other games where Jaden played well, and quite frankly, they should have won. But it was out of his control. So it is a very interesting situation. This is going to be the most well put together locker room he's been in. I don't think anyone here is you know, I think everyone here knows that Arizona State quickly turned into a dumpster fire, and now he's walking into a brand new situation where legit the new slate, Brian Kelly, everybody's basically 0-0, and we'll see how all of that works itself out. But like Aslan astutely pointed out, a lot of the other things need to go your way. The offensive line, Kayshawn's health, and so on and so on. A good defense, knocking back on, defending the explosive plays. So, obviously, getting ready for that Florida State game. Remember, Mark, this is a team that not only lost 2 back-to-back openers, but lost them ugly against teams that turned out to not really be that good, UCLA and Mississippi State. So we'll see how things work out. But Mark, Juan, thank you guys so much. I always like hanging out with Mark Rogers, the voice of college freaking football. Nobody is more excited right now than Mark Rogers. And Lon, obviously, big congratulations to you. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Carter, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Everybody get on over to Carter's channel there. You see it right there, LSU Power Hour here on YouTube. All right, Lon, let's continue to dice it up. We'll be looking for your comments and questions there in the live chat. I'll pass them on to Lon here and catch Lon's work, of course, at LSUodyssey.com. There it is. And I'll make this note about Jaden Daniels, and we've talked about this previously, that in that 17 touchdown, 2 interception freshman debut at Arizona State, he did also lead the nation as a true freshman in fourth quarter comebacks. And I know that statistic can be a bit skewed at times. You can throw for a touchdown with 13 minutes left in the game, and if your defense holds on, then it's considered that type of a number that fills that category. But there was an impressive win against Oregon, an impressive win against Michigan State in that time in which he led drives in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game that counted toward wins against really good opponents. So with the lights on, shining brightly, and to Carter's point, maybe some of the dysfunction at Arizona State in the last couple of seasons has dragged him down.
Oh, Jaden Daniels, so much intrigue there, Mark. So much intrigue. And Carter didn't bring this up, but as he was really basically, anyone who's followed Carter's stuff, I feel like Carter's wanting Jaden Daniels and thinks Jaden Daniels is probably going to be the guy for LSU. And that, for me, I feel like it's probably a race between Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels. I feel like those are probably the 2 guys who are at the tip of the sword right here. And Jaden Daniels, what Carter didn't bring up actually was Jaden just made a big, heady play for the LSU job. One which may kind of rub some people the wrong way. He invited, it first appeared like he only invited select receivers and select few offensive linemen to go with him to California, back home in his hometown, San Bernardino, and train with some professional trainers during what was traditionally a downtime for LSU right before fall camp, right after summer conditioning. And what I heard from actually a source close to the team, very close to the team, told me that Jaden actually invited pretty much everybody on the team to come out with him to California. And it wasn't just, hey, every receiver on the team going behind the quarterbacks, back, so to say. He actually invited the quarterbacks, Nussmeier, Miles Brennan, Walker Howard. So that's just something I wanted to add to that. This just from one source that I heard was that we have no proof of that, but Jaden Daniels supposedly did actually invite everybody. But, that's a big play for the job, though. Those guys were able to see Jaden Daniels not just training hard, working hard, separate from the other quarterbacks, and being able to develop a chemistry and a rhythm. But they really saw Jaden Daniels as a person, like away from the pressure of you're a transfer. How are you gonna deliver? Are you gonna develop to that next rung in your career here at LSU? There's so much intrigue and wonder and curiosity about Jaden Daniels with LSU. But one thing that I saw, Mark, that just gave me big time alarm bells with Jaden Daniels. Okay. The dude didn't transfer here to be benched. He wasn't transferred here to be Miles Brennan's coaster. I get it. And I think he'll probably be the favorite, or him and Nussmeier are going to be battling for that job. It's going to be one between those two. I really do believe that. But he bails on plays far too quickly. And, as you can see in the Pac-12 or whatever is left of it, you can get away with that sometimes. But if you bail on the play just to, scramble without really making sure, where you're going, in the SEC, you'll get eaten. And with Jaden's more slender, athletic build, I got to tell you, seeing him in person, very, very tall, very, very thin. I know he's gained that muscle with Jake Flint, but with that more slender athletic build, I could see it resulting in an injury if he isn't careful, if he isn't more wise about picking those moments to bail. And I saw him run into some trouble in the 2022 spring game. Some moments that caused me to be like, whoa, that's something he's got to clean up in his game, or that could be really bad very quickly. Thinking you can just, pick your moment and go because you see the window's open right there. That window might be open then, but it's closing in 2 seconds because there's a linebacker or a safety or a corner who's going to be playing in the NFL on Sunday, maybe even starting in a Super Bowl game. And he's coming at you, and he's going to be flying. And you're not even going to see him coming. You're just going to go, boom. And it's going to be like the opening of Saving Private Ryan or Jarhead or one of those war films where everything's all shaken, a Michael Bay film or something. It's not going to be fun. Jaden Daniels has to rely on his arm talent even more than his legs. Okay? Supplementing the arm with the legs, not the reverse. I feel, that's not a part of his game right at this moment. But I feel like throughout the season, if starting with LSU's schedule, if you look at the heavy 4-game schedule there, basically 4 or 5 home games, basically, until we play Auburn, I believe it is, the first tough game of the season, Auburn. There's enough time where Jaden Daniels can really get this going and figure this out, or Garrett Nussmeier. So it's really imperative where LSU go down this road. Are they going to cast their lot with Jaden Daniels? Because I'm telling you, if they start him in week 1, you can't pull him in week 5 and expect it to keep this guy around for his final season eligibility.
So I will tee it up this way, and then we'll move on to the question on the screen, because ironically, LSU's first opponent, Florida State, their quarterback, Jordan Travis, similar to a Jaden Daniels, as an undersized player, has gained somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 pounds in the offseason. They've wanted to fill him out, bulk him up, so he has better durability, run him less, and then hopefully can keep him together for 12 or 13 games during the season. Do you think that Jaden Daniels, and again, you haven't seen him a whole lot yet, but you were down there, of course, during the spring, has enough of a frame that they're possibly wanting him to fill it out and maybe gain a few pounds without losing that elusiveness to be more durable for the SEC?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that's what he knows is expected of him too. I think if Jaden Daniels is truly great, which you see those comebacks, you see that Oregon game, that Michigan State game that you're talking about, that's greatness. And whether it's in the Pac-12 or whatever conference, and if you want to talk about, I don't care. That's greatness in college football. LSU went out and got him in the transfer portal as probably the hottest quarterback prospect on the market. And seeing it, obviously there's a few other guys that were you could argue, but Jaden Daniels was pretty intriguing coming out of Arizona State, coming in the transfer portal. LSU, when we got him, there was a lot of talk about, Miles Brennan's going to be the starter. Miles Brennan's going to be the starter every offseason, just the same old thing from the local Louisiana media. Miles Brennan looks the best. Miles Brennan looks the best. And Miles Brennan, I got to tell you, in person, being down there, I haven't seen the growth. In fall camp, it has to be huge from Miles Brennan. It has to be huge. It has to be clutch. It has to be nonstop. I really don't think that's just to impress me. I don't think it's to impress these coaches, because I really feel like they're seeing the same thing.
Lon, we'll get to the question on the screen, and I'm actually going to change it up just a bit because it's a bit outdated. And no offense there, of course, Jacob, we appreciate you being here as a Kansas State fan. He says, I don't follow the SEC heavily. What caused LSU to be missing so many players in last year's bowl game? Also, massive respect to the receiver who stepped up to play quarterback. So I'll add this in, Lon, because of course that's ancient history, and LSU just trying to make it to the finish line at that point. But those personnel issues, how much have they been able to be addressed? Is this still a thin roster compared to what it should be?
You look at some spots and it's very, very deep. Defensive line's one of those spots. We lost a few guys in the transfer portal, and it didn't really seem to do anything for the defensive line depth that we had. Receiver, of course, quarterback, but at the same time, you're always a few transfers, a few injuries away from, your best players being gone and things being really questionable. And that's the thing with LSU, Mark. It's the sheer uncertainty of it, because at LSU every season you could count on the 2s, the 3s, the 4s to be pretty dominant. Maybe not the 4s to be dominant on every down, but probably be like a third down specialist as a freshman and really show a lot of swagger growing into what they're doing. But you usually had those second guys who were definitive behind the stars. We don't even know if we have a star in every single position yet on, say, defensive 11 right there, offense as well, because people want to talk about veteran presence and Cam Wire and all these guys who've started so many games. And just because you've appeared in games doesn't mean you performed well. So, that's a whole different thing with this offensive line. Brad Davis, I think, is doing everything he can himself to get this offensive line where it needs to be. All in all, Mark, overall, I say no. It's a thin roster. It isn't where it needs to be, because that's what Brian Kelly believes as well. I think they solved a lot of issues in the transfer portal. I think they solved so many issues on the 2022 recruiting cycle. I don't know how they finished that class in the shape they did. Sealing a few 5 stars from Louisiana, getting all these guys. I know who they lost, Aaron Anderson, all those receivers, Shaz Preston to Alabama, Kendrick Law. It doesn't matter. Those guys weren't coming to LSU anyway. They sealed it with the guys they had to get. They did what they had to do in every situation. And then 2023, what they're doing with this recruiting class as well, what they're building, really strong as well. So I have to feel they're going to follow suit with the on-field part of this as a coaching staff, and that they're going to pay dividends as a staff here in full by really. There's so many different facets to this team that are just interesting to me, Mark. It's hard to wrap my head around, because this team is thin, but this team is also littered with dudes who are going to be playing on Sundays. And so it's very intriguing as to who's going to step up, who's going to sit down, who's going to walk out the door, because one of the quarterbacks will in a few weeks' time. It's going to be very interesting, Mark, for what LSU is going to do in fall camp, because there's a lot of uncertainty in places where we're not even sure if LSU are going to really make an impact at that position this season. Is there going to be those impact players? Running back, John Emery Jr. is going to deliver. Those guys are going to be hungry and they're competitive and they're going to battle. Noah Kane right behind him. Trey Bradford, Armani Goodwin. There's names, talent enough to really push each other this season at running back. Is there going to be an offensive line that's going to be even held enough to get them anywhere this season? Is the rotation going to be run with the way it should be, with giving guys the right reps at the right times, keeping guys in rhythm? I saw a lot of things that really sucked for LSU the last few years, as far as pulling guys out at the wrong time and rotating running backs and stuff like that. Point is, LSU do have a lot of uncertainty all over the place in the positions. It's very interesting. We're going to have to see what these guys pull out here in fall camp.
Lon Phillip Sullivan, new papa, proud papa, should be, definitely. If you missed their congratulations, certainly you need to watch the beginning of the stream because you get a good look at the new edition. Absolutely. Catch Lon's work, of course, at LSU Odyssey.
Thanks, Mark.
You gave a great breakdown to this, Lon, at the time, going back to spring when you were able to get down to Baton Rouge and spend a week or so with the team at Brian Kelly, go to the news conferences, go to practice day after day after day after day. And now, the comparison between spring and summer is in the spring, there's that ease of, we've got months and months till the season. We're not preparing for an opponent. We're working on get into the stance correctly. This is how we want you to get into a stance. This is how, we can break it down to the grassroots and then build out from there. And it's about developing the players. Well, it's still about developing the players, but it's more about you need to understand this scheme because we got Florida State in less than a month and you need to know to be in the right position at the right time. And, it's more about finding out who's going to be needing to get the time at those particular positions. But what you gleaned from Brian Kelly versus what you knew and observed at Ogeron, Les Miles, just give us a feel for a Brian Kelly led outfit.
Man, streamlined. Really like swaggering. Did not expect that. Did not expect Brian Kelly's staff. I expected straight-laced, like almost militaristic vibe. They have a lot of swagger. They don't only want the smoke; they want to create the smoke. They want to be smoking the cigars with Joe Burrow at the end of these championship games. Mark, they want it all, and they've come to the SEC to do that. It's almost like these guys are on a treasure hunt together. This staff, getting to know some of these guys. These guys are amazing people. These guys are amazing people. They're people first, players second. I feel like that wins you championships, Mark. Look at Phil Jackson. He treated those players like people. May not, you can debate all you want about Phil Jackson as a basketball coach, but as a man manager, second to none. Same with Spain's coach, Vicente Del Bosque, probably the most, well-recognized international soccer coach. That Spain team won 3 international tournaments in a row. Never been done before, will never be done again. That's a World Cup and 2 Euros. That's just something that's off the charts. I know it's a different sport, just comparisons. When you look at what, some of the man management, it's off the charts, Mark. Some of these coaches are basically head coaches in their positions. Joe Sloan, the quarterbacks, he runs that room. That's his room. And first day of spring, man, he was getting after him, Mark. He was intense. He was in their face, lighting them up, showing what he wanted, demanding. Then you got Cortez Hankton, who does it a very different way. Very cool, very calm, very collected, very chill. But at the same time, intense. Knows what he wants and not afraid to get in there. Robert Steeples, someone who's more of an inspirational figure. This man, I feel like, has the right minerals to step in to Corey Raymond's shoes because of just those those values that he has, those character qualities that he has. That's the thing is LSU littered this staff with high character people. Someone you're not going to hear a lot about, someone who's not going to be talked about on Saturdays, but Dr. Arnold. Dr. Arnold, basically the team psychologist in a way, Mark. This guy, what he does for these young men, what he does for this team to develop them as people, I feel like is what LSU needed to take that next step, Mark, as a program. Especially the guys who are superstars who are, coming from the transition from the Orgeron era, the Kayshawn Booties of the world, BJ Ojolari, Ali Gay, Malik Neighbors, Jack Besh, the list goes on and on. John Emery Jr., so many of these superstars, but what were they lacking? What were any of these guys? You could argue some of these guys weren't lacking anything. But there was a lot of players on this team who really were never cut out to be on a Brian Kelly staff, and that's why they're not there. And I feel like LSU made a great clean break there. As for not just like a PR thing, not just a Band-Aid thing, but actually really trying to change the culture at the university, within the football program. And I feel like they've done that. They've been active in the community, Mark. That's something I was, seeing clear back all through the winter, all through spring. I asked some players about that in spring as well. Just a lot of activism in the schools from these players. Just you're seeing them go that extra mile. Who knows if it will develop into wins? But I just got to say, this staff, I love the direction they're going in, and I feel like it will. I feel like it will pay off. Whether it does in 2022, that's something we'll see. But I feel like what I've seen Brian Kelly evolve, how he's evolved from spring till now, how he's kind of like, this is his program. He went through the gauntlet of SEC media days. He took all the questions, how he's dancing, doing all the stuff, and he took all the punches on the chin that he could. Now it's just about coaching football, and I feel like all the bullshit's out of the way, and he can just like focus on coaching football, putting the right quarterback, in the right offense to lead this team to a national championship, having Matt House put the right defense on the field to lead this team to a national championship defense. That's just Brian Polian repairing the special teams, which is something we really have to talk about as well, to a national championship level, which might be really hard to do. That's something that Kelly is now focused on that. And there's nothing really in the way. There's no drama for once at LSU. There's no more opt-outs left and right, one after another. It's a good time for LSU where we can just focus on the football on the field, the players who are going to play the football, and it's really basic, really really boring stuff of just actually playing football for once. And Mark, it's a pleasure to actually just be covering football.
Yeah, it seems like forever we've been talking about transfer portal, NIL, realignment, playoff proposals, expansion, contraction, all of that. We talk about all this because actually at some point guys get on a field and start playing football. That's why we talk about all this. So yes, it's refreshing to talk about football and know it's just around the corner. I believe we're looking at 31 days until that opening Saturday, 24 days for a team like Florida State that actually gets a game before LSU and taking on Duquesne. So 24 days until week 0. And then, of course, LSU and Florida State on a Sunday night at the Superdome. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll be back here on Thursday. We're taking over. The Voice of College Football is taking over South Carolina. We're taking over the state of South Carolina on Thursday. We've got our South Carolina live stream fall camp preview at 10:30 in the morning. Yes, I will be up and slap myself in the face a few times to make sure I'm ready to go at 10:30 in the morning. And then at noon, we've got Clemson. But we got Lon right here talking LSU. And Lon, so 10th rated class in the country for 2023, and certainly a really good news coming by way of a Big Ten school.
Huh? Good news coming by. Ricky Collins. Okay.
Yes.
For a second, I was like, what are you talking about, Mark? Good news coming by a Big Ten school. What? LSU joining the Big Ten?
By way of a Big Ten school.
I was like, is this some breaking news that I'm not looking at all these notifications? LSU has joined the Big Ten. Oh my God. No. Okay. Never mind. Don't even think about that. Just LSU would never join the Big Ten. Never. Okay. Ricky Collins. That's a flip that we saw coming. Mark. It just seemed like Joe Sloan was chipping away at that stone. I don't know if you know about that great Aerosmith song, Chip Away the Stone, but Joe Sloan was rocking and rolling and chipping away at that stone, Mark. And you're letting Ricky know that he's the priority for 2023, for the 2023 class. He was probably who, back when we did a show on Arch Manning, Mark, the show when he committed, I was like, we're going through our head. You asked me the question, who's the 2023 quarterback now? And I'm like, well, this guy is going here. This guy, Eli Holstein's going. And then I'm like, well, Ricky Collins, he's committed to Purdue. He's committed to Purdue. And then I'm like, yeah, LSU should probably put everything to either Ricky Collins or they're just not going to get a quarterback in this class. It seemed to me that it was either Ricky Collins or bust. And so we obviously understand now fully. They wanted a quarterback. They had to have a quarterback. Joe Sloan feels like there's never going to be a class at LSU where they go without signing a quarterback, and I think that's a very smart thing to do as well. And they went full on with Ricky Collins at the Bayou Splash event, invited the young man in, and Ricky reconsidered is not just a hashtag, Mark. That is a reality. The young man, reconsidered his commitment to Purdue, decommitted, and we'll see if LSU can pull off his commitment. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's a Tiger. This is probably the biggest dream for come true for Ricky Collins. This is something that he's wanted for a while, and LSU under the Orgeron era, we're not giving him or his family the time of day whatsoever. Those were wounds LSU's new staff had to heal. And, there was guys that maybe LSU had above him in this class's pecking order. And maybe it might not sit too well that, it was maybe these guys had to make their decisions first before LSU went 100% at him. But it does not negate the fact that LSU went 100% at him, made him the priority for the class. That is still enticing. His family feel that respect from this staff. And, Mark, I look at Ricky Collins as a fantastic talent. And I'm just going to give a huge shout out to my guy, A. Diesel, AD, because A.D. Perkins 2 years ago, first dude who ever told me about Ricky Collins. He was like, Ricky Collins is better than Eli Holstein, Arch Manning, and, throwing some other 2023 quarterback he brought up. And I was like, what? And everyone else was like, you're crazy. You're crazy, AD. And I was like, I think AD is onto something. I think he's that's interesting. I didn't know who Ricky Collins was at the time. This is way back in 2020. Sure enough, I looked him up. I was like, damn, he's good. And I didn't think he was better than Eli Holstein at the time. But, man, I feel like he's inching right there. He's another Elite 11 quarterback out of Woodlawn High. Part of this just glorious Louisiana class of quarterbacks. LSU had to have one of these guys. Joe Sloan had to be a part of the party with getting one of these Louisiana guys. And Ricky Collins is going to be LSU's class pinnacle quarterback, it appears.
Ricky Collins, 6'2", 190, right there in Baton Rouge. Can't let him get away. Almost did to Purdue, and we will see how that transpires at this point. But 13th rated quarterback in the country for the 2023 class, but maybe better than that. Top dozen in the state of Louisiana. He's a top 200 player in the composite at 177. Took a visit to Tallahassee to look at Florida State a couple weeks ago as well.
Yeah, Florida State's done a pretty good job with some of these recruits. They're really high on Shelton Sampson's list as well. So Florida State's done pretty good in this recruiting cycle.
Yeah, in their heyday, they used to be able to get into Louisiana a little bit and do some damage.
Oh, Warwick Dunn. 2 words.
He's the classic example. That's it. That is it.
One of my favorite players.
LSU Odyssey, folks. Get there. You won't be disappointed. You won't regret it. I guarantee it. Get there. Dive into the college football. If you're a college football junkie who has to follow all the main teams, you want to get around to everybody, you get there. If you're an LSU fan, forget it. What's that line?
Put it into your veins, baby.
That's it. Do that. Do that. I dropped our channel link for the LSU channel into the chat. And you guys know the drill that have been watching me long enough. I unashamedly ask you to do this. Even if you're not an LSU fan, please subscribe right now. and get us to 1,000 subs. When you get to 1,000 subs, YouTube starts pushing out your product, your content into traffic. And then if you really want to unsubscribe at some point after we get past 1,000, go right ahead. But get us to 1,000, get to LSU Odyssey. Lon, you also, in addition to LSUodyssey.com, have an LSU Odyssey YouTube channel, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
So people get over there and subscribe, please. LSU Odyssey right here on YouTube.
It's all connected. Every time I post anything on that YouTube channel, it goes onto the site as well. So very easy to find, very easy to cross connect. And we put some weird stuff out on that YouTube channel, Mark. I mean, it's, if you think TikTok is weird, you think all this other stuff is weird, you haven't seen weird until you've seen LSU Odyssey doing one of our like oddcasts where I'm like driving, doing all these crazy errands, but I have all this information I have to say, all this stuff that would usually be an article, but I've got to get it out to the subscribers. So I put it out as quickly, as openly as I can to the subscribers. Here's the information, blah, 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 blah. This guy's coming here. This guy's doing this. LSU's doing this. And try and get my guys, try and get my ladies the information. And that's the thing, Mark. The women have been huge in establishing LSUodyssey.com. Jamer, one of our friends, Jamie, she is amazing. Out of Lake Charles, representing Lake Charles big time, the LC. Jamer, huge friend. Nurse Court, Sarah Johnson, Barbie. The list goes on and on. Whitney, I feel like I'm going to leave someone out and they're going to kill me for this. And I'm so sorry if I leave anybody out. But the women, the Tiger Lady legends who are like absolutely were helping and supporting and reaching out and saying such kind things to Chelsea, my fiance, as she was going through pregnancy and all that. Amazing. And the support you've lent to the site as well. Just got to give a shout out to them, Mark. The women have been huge in the LSU fan base for a long time, and I'm sick of the women being really not given enough time here. The women have been killing it in the media for LSU. You know, Julie Bowdwin is a woman who I feel like doesn't get enough shine, and I feel like is going to be probably working for like 247 or Rivals sorry, she already works for Rivals. Probably working for like Sports Illustrated, some big time, big shot place soon enough if she wants to, or start her own thing. She's fantastic. There's just a lot of females who are just killing it in the LSU fan base and even on the LSU staff. Destiny Wilson, huge with these recruits, Mark. Huge with these recruits.
Lon, we've got a question coming in from our buddy Mark J. Zance Herd, offensive tackle at 6'5", 300, one of the very best in the nation right there in Monroe, Louisiana. He visited Nebraska back in June. How confident are you about Zance Herd?
Well, you know, if you go look on LSUodyssey.com, we got our 2023 class predictor mock class number 1 piece going up there. And I won't reveal too much, but I think it's safe to say he'll be playing for a school in Louisiana in the Power 5. I'm not sure how many options there are. There might be a few, but it's safe to say Zance Herd will stay within the state of Louisiana, I believe. Zance Herd, big time teammate of Will Campbell, bookend tackles on that Neville offensive line who were historic. Were blocking for A.J. Allen, over 2,000 yards, eclipsed, I think it was 34 touchdowns as well. Unbelievable season they had together, and now Will Campbell doing work early with spring, starting at left tackle. Can Zance Herd commit to LSU and follow in the footsteps of his buddy, his Neville buddy? That'll be interesting to see. And I will say just right now, yeah, Zance Herd's coming to LSU.
Folks, we have delivered fall camp live streams previewing fall camp for Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas A&M. We've got South Carolina and Clemson coming up tomorrow. And right here, of course, LSU. Lon, thank you so much for making this happen. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on?
You know, I get this. I get just one last thought.
Sure.
This is something I've been thinking about lately. With LSU's season, a lot of people are wondering, how are they going to do? They're going to lose 5 games. They going to, maybe just lose, only 1 or 2 and make it in the college football playoff. Are they going to lose 6 or 7 games? Is it going to be embarrassing? Are there going to be a lot of injuries? I feel LSU have looked at the past. Brian Kelly's LSU. He's identified how injured and how tired LSU were just going into week 1 last year. Just injuries all over that team, Mark. I remember going into it with you. It was like 20-something injuries going into the week 1 game. Just completely decimated. And it only just got worse in 2021. Only got worse. The strength and conditioning staff, like Carter was referencing earlier, Jake Flint has kicked ass, taking names. Jake Flint and his Beards of Fury are really his strength and conditioning staff. All of them got the beards. The Beards of Fury are killing it. And I got to say, Mark, this group of young men aren't just looking thick and filled out like, oh, they look built. They look healthy. They look like they're eating right. And they definitely are, because their nutritionist, Matt Frakes, doing work as well. I feel like this team, they may not win 10-plus games this season. They may not make a college football playoff. But I feel like this 2022 LSU team are going to be entertaining, competitive, must-see television week in, week out. You're going to see crazy overtime games. You're going to see heartbreaking defeats, LSU Tiger fans, but don't go killing Kelly for it. This team, this program, I believe, seeing it on the outside, seeing it from within, in the flesh, seeing it behind the scenes, on the practice field, hopefully. Who knows what we'll see on the field, but I got to tell you, it's going to be competitive. It's going to be high quality, the best LSU can be. There's going to be positions where LSU have weaknesses this season. There's going to be positions where LSU, you just want to rip your hair out. But there's going to be some awe-inspiring moments this season that are going to be really, really epic, especially when you're talking about an offense that, if the stars align, could be really, really something special. Mark, thank you for always having me on. You've been so loyal to me, just an awesome dude that I can look up to as someone who's been killing it and been a champion in this industry, in this business for a while. 100,000 subscribers. Mark Rogers and the voice of college football eclipsed 100K subscribers just recently. And he's been doing work for years. It's been like a decade now, Mark, that you've just been.
Yes, it has been.
No, seriously, Mark has, at the same time, Mark was just doing it on ESPN as well too. So Mark has so much experience. He's been well traveled, covered the SEC as well. Mark, for me to be in your company this many extended times, what can I say, brother? It's been a great time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Lon. I always enjoy the conversation, and from what I tell folks on here is that there's just a unique quality to Lon's delivery here, but then you also get it on the site. What you get here is you get the wordsmith Lon. You get some of the nicknames and the other descriptions that only he can deliver. But on the site, you go to the site and you find the journalist Lon, and you get the just the high level of research, storytelling, the behind the scenes information and stories that he finds out from family members and all the things that the connections that as a true journalist, Lon, that you come up with to really research backgrounds of players and find out the real story. And certainly we had our issues, and these still hasn't been resolved regarding the LSU off the field issues surrounding like Darius Geis and all the things that went on during Les Miles' tenure that slid into the Ed Ogeron, and to have you on certainly during those times to really talk about what was out there online and what was truth and what was speculation, and be able to divide that, and some of the sources that you had that were able to, give us a real, clear look, as clear as possible, because nobody knows all the truth, but was exceptional. And I certainly appreciated that in particular.
Wow, Mark, thank you, because that was probably the stuff that I have taken the most beating for by some of the LSU fans, but it had to be done at the time. It had to be done, and I tried to just be like, we got to find the truth here, whatever it is, however ugly it is, or whatever it is, we got to find it. And I feel like we still really haven't gotten to the bottom of some of what happened in the later years. We really know what happened with Les Miles. We know what that was about, but later years maybe not so much. But Mark, whether it rains, shines, LSU all the time. And you know what? Let's go, baby. This season's going to be epic, Mark. This season's going to be epic.
Lon Philip Sullivan, LSU Odyssey. Want to remind everyone to get on over there. Subscribe to our LSU channel. I've dropped the link a few times in the live chat. And then also Thursday, again, the Voice of College Football takes over the state of South Carolina. I believe that is the Palmetto State. We've got South Carolina at 10:30 in the morning, Clemson at noon. Lon, we are about 4 weeks away from football, and we certainly want to see you as many times as possible before then. But my couple words of wisdom to you as a new father here would be get as much sleep as you possibly can at any time in the day or night that you can possibly steal away a little sleep. Don't ignore those times, even if it's 20 minutes. Grab it.
Okay. I'm not a napper at all, but Mark, I'm going to listen to that now. I'm going to probably be the biggest napper in the world has ever seen at this point now. I will listen to that.
And then from someone who now has and is proud to proclaim a 25-year-old and a 23-year-old who have turned out not perfectly, because none of us are, but way beyond what I would have ever asked for or imagined or dreamed for or prayed for regarding two kids. Certainly, Lon, it's all worth it. It'll be tiring. It'll be frustrating. It'll be a struggle at times, but it will all be worth it.
As one of these commenters said, Lon looks tired, like he hasn't had any sleep. Bro, I've had like an hour's sleep in the last 4 days. So it's, we're running on fumes. So I hope I made sense tonight, Mark. I hope I don't watch this back and I'm just sickened by it.
No, you incredibly made sense for a guy running on fumes. It was remarkable.
It's been crazy, but everybody, thank you so much for the kind words. So many people said so many just nice things I did not even see coming. So many people associated with LSU just saying such awesome stuff. LSU as a university, as a program, as a fan base, just A-levels. Your people on here, fantastic. Mark, thank you for having me on as always, brother. You know how I feel about you, brother. You know how I feel.
Thanks, Lon. We appreciate it. And again, everyone, Thursday, 10:30 in the morning, South Carolina, at noon at Clemson. And Tim's not going to be happy with me. 10:30 in the morning, Eastern time. Yeah, that's when it had to happen. So South Carolina, live fall camp preview, 10:30 in the morning. Let me bring up the banner. Where are we? There we go. Thursday fall camp live shows. South Carolina, 10:30 in the morning, Eastern time, Clemson at noon. We have already delivered Texas A&M, Penn State, Notre Dame, and LSU. So check out those videos right here at the Voice of College Football. All right. If you have any requests for videos, if you have any requests in particular, we've been working on some realignment talk. I will only deliver videos that I believe are reasonable. That's all I can say. I'm not making predictions on what realignment's going to look like, but I'm saying these situations, these scenarios are possible. That is a reasonable scenario, and we will divide up any conference you would like. So we continue with that, and of course, we're getting you geared up for the 2022 season. We will do a 24-hour, yes, you heard it right, 24-hour live stream here that opening weekend. All right, folks. 10:30 in the morning Eastern time. We will see you then.